Any economy relies heavily on banks. Federal Reserve is a bank, but unlike other banks, it generates money. The truth is that every bank has the authority to print its own currency. However, starting a bank and printing money is not as difficult as it may seem. Rather than wasting time and money on founding a bank, why not start a cryptocurrency instead? There has been a lot of this recently. Likely, you don't know much about banking if you think cryptocurrencies are a ripoff. Welcome to Finance Dojo. We aim to be the best personal finance educational channel you ever need. Click that subscribe button and the notification bell right now so you won't miss out. So in this video, we'll examine 5 financial facts that banks would want you not to know. Since if everyone knew them, the banking system may come to an end. In Henry Ford's words, it's good enough that the people of the nation do not grasp our banking and monetary system, for if they did, I believe there would be a revolution by tomorrow morning. Number 1. Keeping your money in a bank is a con. If you were to put your funds in a bank, how much interest would you receive? No matter how you look at it, it would seem like at least a few percentage points are required for it to make sense. You can argue with those stats if you examine them. Banks like Citi and JP Morgan are offering less than 0.5%. Even though some banks charge a larger interest rate, this is still less than 1%, which is particularly advantageous given the current low interest rate environment. Consider the possibilities. At a time when the overall inflation rate is 2.5%, your money only raises by 0.5% per year. Your wealth's inherent worth is deteriorating year after year. You'd be better off spending it now than letting it sit in a savings account. A few years from now, your money will have substantially less purchasing power than it has now. Asset values, such as houses and equities, have soared in recent years as inflation has risen, as we've witnessed in the previous several months. The purpose of a bank is not to make money, but rather to keep your money safe. Number 2. Any bank has the legal authority to manufacture money from thin air. If I told you that banks produce money, you wouldn't believe me, since the only bank permitted to do so is the Federal Reserve. It is the sole institution with the privilege to use the printing press and is the source of the dollar. The banking system, on the other hand, is set up in such a manner that every bank in the country, and indeed the globe, is permitted to generate money to a certain extent, depending on the amount of money deposited in the bank. Let's imagine you put $1,000 in the bank. What do you believe the bank will do with the money? It's pointless to hold it, if they wouldn't be able to give you your pitiful 0.5%. So the bank loans your money to someone else who wants to buy a vehicle or a house and receives interest that's typically considerably greater than the 0.05% it pays you. The average credit card interest rate is 20%. That's hundreds of times more than the bank will give you. The key is that the bank will not notify you to whom your money will be lent. If your money is still in the bank and you may withdraw it whenever you choose, where did the bank remove the money to lend to someone else? Fractional reserve banking is the term for this. Banks are only permitted to retain 10% of deposits and lend the rest. The bank produces another $900 and loans it to someone else every $1,000 you despise in the bank, bringing the total amount of $1,900. The bank made $900 appear out of nowhere because the computer has just digits. It's not as tough as you imagine. Number 3. Borrowing money from banks and investing it elsewhere is a way to gain money. Mark Zuckerberg took up a 30-year mortgage in July 2012 to finance his $5.95 million Palo Alto house, which is 3 miles from Facebook's offices. He was 28 years old at the time and the world's 40th wealthiest individual, with a net worth of $15.6 billion. Why would you go into debt if you have billions of cash and can simply pay it off? He would easily buy a dozen $6 million mansions in cash without blinking an eyelid if he so desired. So what's the point of getting a mortgage? It's free money. That's the answer. I realize if that seems unbelievable. When you're already a millionaire, who would offer you free money? I mean, unless it's for a charity, why would somebody give someone else free money? It's all about the interest rates. Remember how we said that banks provide so poor returns that it's not worth leaving your money in them since they don't even beat inflation, resulting in a loss. In this case though, the situation is reversed. In the United States, the inflation rate is 2.5% to 3%. Thus, any money you borrow that is less than that is called free money. The mortgage rate for Zuckerberg was slightly over 1.05%. When you do the arithmetic, you'll see that the bank is losing money since the mortgage rate is lower than inflation. To do the arithmetic, you don't need to be a genius. Let's imagine you borrow $1 million at a rate of 1.05%. Before the pandemic, the average rate of return on savings account was 2.4%, and now it's less than 1%, but let's remain at 2.4%. That is, even if you deposit the $1 million in another bank, you would earn $24,000 a year, while merely paying the bank that lent you the money a monthly sum of $10,500 for 1.05%. Consider what you might accomplish with $100 million or perhaps $1 billion. When you can borrow money for free, there's no reason to keep your own money when you can put it to better use. Of course, when dealing with tiny sums of money, this may not make sense because the difference isn't significant. When it comes to significant quantities, however, a percentage of 1, 2, or 0.5% might imply tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands. Number 4. The lower the rate, the wealthier you are. Remember that banks are not charities. They are corporations with the same goal as any other, to maximize profit. They have stockholders to whom they must answer, and they won't be able to thrive if their business strategy isn't successful. That is why they are considerably more willing to lend money to a wealthy individual than to a poor individual. When you're a billionaire, for example, the bank can rest easy, knowing that no one is concerned about you defaulting on your own loan. And if something goes wrong and you can't make your monthly payments, you can easily sell a portion of your business to pay off your mortgage, making lending money to you almost risk-free. In reality, throughout the years, the banking system evolved to the point where banks would only operate with the nobility, with those who had money or assets that generated revenue consistently, such as land. When compared to the ordinary employee, who may become ill, be unable to work, or just lose his job, it's exceedingly dangerous to lend money to someone who is just scraping by. I know it's simple to point the finger at banks for this, but think about it. Would you feel comfortable lending money to a buddy who makes very little money or who owns a business? Probably the latter, regardless of how harsh it seems. So, whether you want a lower mortgage rate, a lower credit card rate, or just better borrowing conditions, you must first improve your financial situations. Banks also give such low mortgage rates to build close ties with wealthy individuals so that they would come to them when they want a larger amount. It's a win-win situation for everyone. Blockchain and cryptocurrency technologies promise to change this and democratize banking, and they will most likely to do so to some extent. In reality, banking has been more democratized to the point that everyone may use financial services. Consider what it was like a century ago. Number 5. Credit cards are the nuclear weapons of banks. 70% of those credit card debts say they won't be able to pay it off this year. Consider what that implies for a moment. Credit card debt isn't the same as a mortgage. It isn't the same as 3.5% every year. It's most likely about 20%. What makes you think you'll be able to pay off your credit card debt in a few months when it's become considerably larger if you can pay it off now? In other words, 70% of Americans are on the verge of becoming debt slaves. Moreover, half of those polled, or 56%, said They've held credit card debt for at least a year, and the majority of them will continue to do so for years to come. Almost 20% believe it will take them more than 3 years to pay off their debt, while 8% say they have no idea when they would be able to do so. And that's how banks make their money. Most individuals spend without considering how they'll pay it back. They have become accustomed to a particular way of living and are willing to maintain it even if they can't afford it. That is why banks continue to call you to try to offer you a new credit card. Don't get me wrong. Correctly using credit card is beneficial to your credit score. But if you are not financially responsible, you should avoid falling into debt. As always, this video is for educational purposes only and not financial advice. You should always do your own research and speak to a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.